Good morning, everyone. My name is Edie Varley. I'm one of 14 children born to June and Jim Varley, and they're not around to talk about it anymore, although I wish they were. But I honestly believe they knew and understood that love's a verb, because there was a whole lot of loving going on at our house. And honestly, I thought we lived in a commune before communes were cool. We were asked to think of a title for our remarks this morning, and so I selected The Power of One. Make a greater individual commitment count. And my stories are simple. They're reflections on my life experiences, and they involve three people: my father, my brother, and my mother. Simple, straightforward. Accept it, reject it, modify it any way to suit your needs. They were profoundly impactful to me, and I'm hopeful in these stories there might be lessons for you, something you can take away and anchor something to. I'm 62 years in the making standing here before you, and so there's been a whole lot of living going on. So bear with me, if you will. I'm going to begin with my father, James George Varley. Love this picture of him, full of life. And the story begins when I was in first grade. We were at recess, and this group of cool kids came and stood around me, and the first thing I really noticed is they're pointing their finger at me, and their noses were all scrunched up, like they were smelling something bad. And then I heard, "You're rich, you're rich." Now, I didn't really know what rich was, but I knew I didn't want any part of it, and especially because if it smelled. Luckily, the bell rang, we got to go back into class. But it was stewing around in me. You're rich, you're rich. I ride my bicycle home, and I'm playing out in the backyard and so forth, and I see my dad drive up, and I run up, I go, "Daddy, are we rich?" He must have, by the look on my face, discovered something was heavy on my mind. So he picks me up, brings me into the house, sits down, taps his knee, says, "Sit down here a minute, let's talk about that." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Now I want you to take your shoe off and your sock off." "Daddy!" He said, "No, we want to count your toes." I said, "You want to count my toes?" He said, "Yeah, let's start with this little piggy went to market." So we counted them all. "How many toes do you have?" I said, "5." He said, "Now let's take off the other shoe and the sock." "Again?" He said, "Yeah, we got to check that foot." So I counted those 5 toes. Guess what? 5 and 5 equals what? I said, 10. He said, "Good news." He said, "Now I want you to stretch out your hands. Let's start counting your fingers." I said, "Even the thumb?" He said, "Absolutely." So 1, 2, 3. We had 5 fingers on one hand, 5 fingers on the other hand. Wow. He said, "Now, do all your brothers and sisters have 10 fingers and 10 toes?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You know what I think?" I said, "No." He said, "I think we're the richest people I know." Yes, we are rich. Bingo, we are rich. Hopped off his lap and just ran to go have dinner. But what it did for me at first grade is it reminded me when I'm poor in spirit, or poor in relationships, or poor in the things money can buy, or just flat poorly feeling, I begin by counting my toes. And that message resonates with me and all I've ever spoken to about it, because oftentimes we forget what are the real riches in life. Begin maybe with counting your fingers and your toes. I thank my dad. Many other things he taught me, but that one stuck. The second involves my brother, Jason Alderson Varley, the caboose, number 14. Well, the doctors didn't give him but a day or two to live. So what does my mother do? She brings him home from the hospital to die. And that was quite an experience. So it was about 6 months to the day Jason came home from the hospital that Jason went home to God. But not without having a profound impact on me, and likely all those that cared for him. Because he actually called out of me qualities that might never have been revealed. The qualities of compassion, generosity, for sure tenderness, and deep and sincere love. And as we were standing around the bassinet celebrating this little life, I realized Jason never took a step or uttered a word. But as I was looking at everybody, and I was 20 years of age at the time, I knew I hadn't done anything. And I was thinking, who of us in this room with so much more opportunity, so much better health, so much more time, succeeds so well in calling out the best in others? I knew at that time, I vowed, I didn't have to be the best, but I had to be at my best in honor of this little life who'd given me so much in such a short period of time. And what I didn't realize, make a greater individual commitment, came many, many years later. And my vow was to look for and find the good in other people and call it out of them so they could see it and make a greater individual commitment count. What's our story there? You don't have to live 1,000,000 years to have a profound impact on the people in your world. It's in his memory that I try to make a greater individual commitment count, moment to moment. And believe me, that ain't easy. My third story involves my mother. She died at 67. I'm 62. Woohoo! Think about it. Life is short, but she earned her stripes. Picture this. We're at my sister's rehearsal dinner. This is child number 8, and my mother named her Joy. Huh? All right. It's her rehearsal dinner. Everybody's tanking. Everybody's giving advice. And then you hear ting, 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 ting. My mother clicked the glass, and she said, you know, your father and I have been married many years. We've had many children. I would like to offer my daughter and her husband-to-be some advice. So she proceeds up to the front of the room so she could be heard, and I'm behind the video camera like Tim, and she whips around and pulls out about 6 pages of notes. I'm saying inside myself, oh, I don't remember all 6 pages, but I remember 3 significant things that I want to share with you because they are impactful. The first was Joy and Paul. Remember to make your home a refuge, a safe harbor, a sanctuary, if you will, a place where you can come in from a sometimes cold and brutal world and lay the burdens of the day to rest, where your spirit can be refreshed. You're respected and loved so you can begin anew the next day and fulfill the duties of your state in life, doing what is right and just. You could have heard a pin drop on the carpet. The second thing she said was, and remember, grease the wheels of life with a good sense of humor. Poking fun at your own foibles first, because humor can diffuse what might otherwise be an explosive situation. Believe me, I am at full attention. And the third thing she said was, and beware. Everyone's listening. She repeated it. And beware. Beware of being in the company of couples who find humor in ridiculing their spouse, their children, their neighbors, or their friends. Because humorous ridicule leads to the death of love. The power of one man, the power of one life, the power of one woman. In each of those instances, they made a greater individual commitment count. And so I challenge you. For whom are you the power of one? For whom do you live up to the fullness of your own promise? If you don't know that answer, I'm inviting you to take a page from these 3 people's book and my living experience. Be a power of one. make a greater individual commitment